Now let's go over the M2s. The M2s create this beautiful trail effect, and they're really good for whips, figure eights, flails, pretty much anything that's faster and has a trail effect. Now, I've noticed the best reactions at drops when I go really fast. Generally, when I go slow or when I have gone slow with my M2s, they have not been good at all. And so I recommend you test it out yourself. Most people like M2s at the drop or in very fast parts. Now let's talk about wontons. So I already went over how to do the wontons in my YouTube video, and I'm just gonna break down a few things that go into the details for you. So to really get clean wontons, you have to spend a lot of time shining the light on your finger. And this is the most important step that's actually overlooked in wontons, is you want the light to be shining up your entire finger. And so if you have to bend your finger in a certain way and shine this light in a certain way so that it captures everything on your finger, you gotta actually take time to practice that. And most people, they'll like either point the light kind of on the finger, it'll maybe shine like the bottom half of their finger, but you want it shining on the entire finger. And so when you start doing these like figure eight motions, it's gonna make your trails look way bigger. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the iNova wand before, but it's pretty much like a tube where you put the iNova in, and you could do like glow sticking type moves. It's a pretty similar concept where you wanna shine the light along your finger so it elongates that trail effect. It's all in the details. So spend time on this part and your trails will look extra fat. There's also 4 different ways to do wontons that people don't know about and no one talks about it. So I'll share with you the 4 different ways. In my YouTube video, I go over how to do the wonton where you do this vortex and then you make a circle, right? And you do another one and you make a circle. So the first type of wonton that you could do is the one where you do 2 forward rolling circles. And so if my hands are like this, they make a forward circle, right? This would be a forward circle. This would be a backward circle. And so you go like this, you do a forward circle. You go like this, and you do another forward circle, okay? And so that looks like this, where my hands are doing 2 forward circles. The next type of wonton is where you do 1 forward circle and 1 backward circle. And so you do 1 forward circle, and then 1 backward circle. So it goes forward circle, backward circle. And most people do their wontons like this. So they could go forward, backward circle, or they could do this backward circle, forward circle. And so those are 2 different kinds, right? They both have different effects. Now, the last type of wonton that you could do are the 2 backward rolling circles. So if we go like this, we backward roll it, go like this, and then they do the backward circle, right? And so those end up looking like this. And Muppet has some of the silkiest looking wontons that I have ever seen. It's just like this non-stop silky railroad that is never ending. It's like this infinity sign that just kind of traps you in. And so in my opinion, I think that these 2 backward rolling circles are the cleanest wontons. However, there are plenty of other people that do all different types of wontons and they still look clean. The key is shining the light correctly and making sure your wrist motion is very fluid. And that just comes with practice. So experiment it, find your own way. Lately, I have been doing the 2 backward rolling circles one, and I found that it's just easier on my wrist to do. Really find your own way and just play around with it. Another detail you want to take into consideration is you want to make sure the wonton is facing the viewer. And so people may be doing wontons out here, which it still looks cool, but you want to make sure to capture them in that vortex. And not only facing them on the grid, but you also want to angle it at them. And so oftentimes people will point their wontons up. If the viewer is sitting like this and there are like these figure eights kind of angled up, it doesn't make like a large 8 that they could see clearly. And so oftentimes you want to kind of angle them down like this, where you present them in front of the viewer like this. Versus like angling them up like this. And that will really make your wontons larger, because if you take a number 8 like this, and let's say it's drawn on this hand right here, and you kind of angle it like this, the 8 becomes thinner. It becomes harder to see. And so you want to make sure that they could see it clearly. So make sure you kind of point them, angle them down a little bit, and make sure to present them in front of the viewer. Now, any trail move works with M2s. So you could do liquids, you could do whips, you could do flails, pretty much anything that shows a trail, it's gonna look good with your M2s. And so you could do like liquid 8s where you hold the thumb in like this. I think this looks pretty cool. You could like follow it over here. You could do them over here. You could do flails, right? Flails like this, any of those 4 flail patterns. You could do whips. And when you're doing whips, you could have your thumbs in like this, or you could have your thumbs out like this. As long as you're conscious of where your thumbs are and what kind of trail it leaves, you could really put your thumbs any way that you want. Another move that Fry does is he does these like shaka rotate things super fast, so they almost look like helicopters. So he does this thing. That move is super cool, really creative, and no one else does it because it's like a classic Fry move. But if you could find a way to show the trail just like that, I mean, go for it. The key is you just want to make sure that people can see this trail. Some glovers even use these thumbs on M2 as just regular thumbs, as if they weren't even iNovas. So like if they're morphers or if they're big into like finger tutting, like you could totally use these as regular thumbs and they don't have to be like trail effects. You could totally use it however you want. I just want you to remember that the power in the M2 is in the trail effect. And so utilize the trail effect to your advantage and really make it pop. When you're doing your trails, it looks better when your other fingers are not too blinky. And so you don't want to use like hyper strobes or like a setting with a whole bunch of blanks in them if you're doing a trail heavy show. Generally, the strobe or the DOP setting make the M2 trails pop a lot more than like a hyper strobe. Also, sometimes having too many colors in your other fingers can drown out your M2s when you're doing your wontons or your other moves. And so my personal preference is I like to keep the color set simple, like either 2C or 3C, so that it shows the thumbs more and they pop more. Especially with the M2s, having a simple color set on the rest of your fingers will show the trails and they'll stand out a lot more. I also like to use whites in my color sets because that just highlights the red and blue a lot more. But again, it's all personal preference. If you want to use like 6 or 8 colors in your fingers, that's totally fine. You could impact just fine with a super blinky set, with like a heavily colored set on your other fingers. It's really personal preference. Impacting does not require you to have like a 2C, 3C like on DOPs or anything like that. So just do it however you like, and just keep in mind when you're doing your trails that they do look better on a less blinky setting. And so your action item is spend some time really practicing shining the light so it reaches from the bottom of your finger up to the top of your finger. And what I have to do is I have to stick my finger up and kind of curl it, point it like that, so it captures the whole finger. And so I want you to also spend time shining the light along your finger so that you can get a fatty trail. I also want you to figure out which wonton style fits best for you. And so we have like the 2 front rolling circles, we have the front and backwards both ways, or we have like the 2 backward rolling circles. Figure out which one is most comfortable for you and which one looks the best for you.